Hey guys, welcome back here to Advanced Bass Fishing, and really appreciate you guys hanging out with me a little bit and coming by the channel. And guys, today I want to talk about something that every one of us as a bass angler goes through, and that's when it just seems impossible to catch a fish. Some days you get out there and it's like, it doesn't matter what you do or where you fish or what you try, you just can't catch them. And it's frustrating. It's not any fun whatsoever. It happens to all of us. And I've got some tips and advice on how to avoid this as much as possible, and maybe a few different explanations about how it actually happens. So I think it's going to be a really interesting video for you guys. Also, guys, start a couple of our daily housekeeping tips to keep the channel on YouTube here. Just wanted to remind you that Solar Bat has got a big Easter sale going on with my Signature Series. These are my RB2 glasses. You can get these or my RB3 Series Signature glasses, 30% off for this month. I'll put the Solar Bat link in the description of this video if you guys would like to pick up a pair or two. If you're going to get the lens colors, guys, I'd recommend the high contrast yellow, which are these, or the mossback green on sunny days, but those are my favorites. And also, guys, thank you very much for everybody that has reached out to me for an on-the-water lesson. If you'd like to book an on-the-water private lesson with me, I do my lessons on Table Rock Lake and Stockton Lake here in Missouri. Just shoot me a private message on my Facebook page, Intuitive Angling with Randy Blaukat, and I'll get you the details, so I appreciate that. Okay, guys, one of the most frustrating things about fishing is not catching them, and wanting to catch them and really wanting to do good, and you just can't get anything going. It's part of fishing, and it happens to everybody, especially if you fish a public body of water. If you're one of the guys that has a private lake to fish, or you got a farmer that's got a farm pond full of hogs, you're not going to be able to relate to it. But if you're on any type of a larger man-made reservoir, anything over 1,000 acres or so, you're going to have those days out there where it just seems impossible to get a bite. Okay, first of all, one of the things to remember is, and it should be sort of calming and reassuring, is that the bass are always biting. It's like there's never a single day out there where they're just not biting, because you hear a lot of people say, well, you know, they have a tough day and they say, oh, they're just not biting today. They're always biting. You just have to be at the right place at the right time with the right lure. The combination of all those things. And a lot of times, one of the reasons it seems impossible is that you can't do anything. I mean, you can't do everything on a given day. I mean, most of us, when we get out on the water, you've got 4, 5, 6, maybe if you're lucky, 8 hours to fish. And if you've only got, even 8 hours to fish, you can't be all over the lake, or you can't try every lure in your box. You have to narrow it down, like to where you want to fish out on the lake and the techniques that you want to use. And a lot of times, you simply are just in the wrong area with the wrong bait, or the combination of the two. And sometimes you land right on it. I've had tournaments, guys, where I've found the fish in the first 30 minutes of practice that I'm ready to start the tournament. And I've had other practices where I'm clueless and I haven't caught a fish the whole practice, and everything in between. So it's going to happen to you. But like I said, given that, it's sort of like you have to have this frame of mind that, yeah, I'm going to catch them, but I've just got to figure out where they're going to be at and the lures they want. And sometimes it's going to take a while, but know that it's going to happen, because it's a process of elimination. So the best thing that you can do as far as to not have these type of days is you have to sort of prepare for your trip before you go fishing. And the best way to do this is just study what's going on. There's so much information available that you can soak up right now on a lake that you get ready to go to. There's fishing reports. You can get a gist of sort of how the fishing's been, the lake conditions. That's the number one thing. And then along with that, once you sort of figure out what the fish are doing, you have to apply your knowledge of bass and movements and seasonal patterns to formulate your game plan. And that's why I always talk so much about seasonal movements and the activity of the fish and their mood and personality. You hear me talking about that all the time, because this is the factor that allows you to find bass quickly and have fewer of those type of days where it just seems impossible to get to them. So given that, the first thing that you have to do is you have to put yourself around the highest group of fish if you're going to have any type of a consistency. Most of the time, if you're struggling to catch bass, you're not around a lot of bass, because here's the thing about it. If you're in an area that has a lot of bass in it, you don't have to be using the exact right lure or the exact right color to catch some fish. You're still going to catch fish, even if you may not have the best lure on. And then learning to maximize your area and figure out and tweak the bait and the color and the profile. Once you can dial in on that, that's when you really have those good days. But until you do that, you may struggle. So here's the typical scenario where a lot of people get frustrated and it seems impossible. Let's say, for example, you're going to go out and you think they're going to bite a crankbait. And, you've got a couple different areas that you want to try with the crankbait, and you roll up on some of your best spots and you fish a crankbait and you just can't catch them. And then maybe you go to 2 or 3 other areas and you can't catch them on a crankbait. And then after half the day goes by, you start to lose your stubbornness a little bit and say, man, maybe they're not biting a crankbait today. Maybe I need to pick up a spinnerbait or something, or a jig. And you try something different and that's still not working. So here it is, by the time it's early afternoon, your confidence level is low. You don't have any confidence that you're going to catch them. You're frustrated, you want to go home. We've all been there and we've all done that. So what can you do to actually avoid that? Here's a couple different things. First of all, if you're in an area where you're pretty confident there's a group of fish, let's say, for example, you pick out a major creek arm in the lake you're fishing. There's fish in that creek arm. There's a ton of fish in there. So the first thing that you have to do is put yourself around an area that you know there's fish there. So if you go into that major creek arm, you know there's fish there. So you get into this creek arm and you say, okay, what do I need to do here? The best rule of thumb I can give you is take time to assess the available options within that creek or wherever you're fishing. What's the cover? Are there docks? Are there grass beds? Is there lily pads? Is there points? Whatever. And try to get this assessment of the available cover. And then after you get that available cover, your options, then do the same thing with your bait. Say, okay, maybe I can catch them on a frog in these pads here, or maybe I can catch them on a finesse jig around these docks here, or maybe there's a bluff bank over there. Maybe I can fish a jerkbait parallel to that bluff bank and catch one. You got your game plan started. Now, when you start your game plan, give it what I call the 15-minute rule. If you pull up to that bluff and you've got in your mind that, okay, I want to try to catch them on a jerkbait on this bluff, try it for 15 minutes. If it's working, great. Keep going down the bluff and try to duplicate it around the lake. If it's not working, the first thing that you have to do is don't abandon that bluff. Maybe they want a crankbait or a jig on that bluff instead of a jerkbait. So if you go through the same process like with the jig and the crankbait, and if you've tried several different techniques on that piece of structure and you're not catching them, just write it off and go to the next one. Okay, we know the bluffs aren't working. Maybe that row of docks over there has got some fish on it. So you go over to that row of docks. You start out with the finesse jig, 15 minutes, you don't catch them. You make another pass down through there and you put on a shaky head and you start to get bites. And this is how you repeat that process. And eventually, after you run enough of that available cover and you switch up the techniques using that 15-minute rule, you're not going to have those days where it just seems impossible. You're going to catch some fish quicker than anything. Now, I'm not saying that it works every time, but it works more than it does not time. So, guys, the best advice I want to give you as far as for when it just seems impossible is keep on the move, use that 15-minute rule that I talked about, and just tell yourself that it's just a matter of time. It's like, I may find these fish in an hour from now, or I may find these fish, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But through the process of elimination, you're getting closer and closer and closer to catching fish the longer you go without catching a fish. And if you feel frustrated and, what I just said to you doesn't really help, join the crowd, guys. Bass fishing is frustrating. Bass fishing is a difficult sport. There's nothing easy about it a lot of times. The days that it is easy and the days that the fish are biting really good are few and far between on public bodies of water. So just be kind to yourself, keep open-minded, keep a good attitude, and you'll run into them. So we'll talk later.